Sam Bass. The final chapter. Welcome back to the story of Sam Bass, the outlaw who lived fast and died young. This is part 2 of our deep dive into the life and legend of one of the Wild West's most notorious bandits. If you haven't seen part 1, make sure to check it out first. We covered his early years, his time as a cowboy, his failed gold prospecting, and the legendary train heist that made him famous. But the story doesn't end there. In this video, we'll explore his final days, his clashes with the Texas Rangers, the betrayal that led to his downfall, and the lasting legacy he left behind. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss more legendary outlaw stories. Now let's ride into the final chapter of Sam Bass, the outlaw with a generous heart. Sam Bass may have been a notorious outlaw, but he wasn't just feared. He was also admired by some. Unlike many criminals of the Old West, Bass had a reputation for generosity, often sharing his stolen wealth with those in need. While he robbed trains and stagecoaches, he wasn't known for unnecessary violence, and some even saw him as a Robin Hood figure of the frontier. One of the most well-known stories of Bass's generosity took place after a successful train robbery. After securing a large haul, Bass and his gang stopped in a small Texas town to lay low. While there, they spent freely at the local saloon, paying for drinks and meals not only for themselves but also for the locals. It's said that Bass handed a struggling farmer a wad of cash, telling him to buy food and supplies for his family. The farmer, stunned by the outlaw's kindness, later refused to assist Texas Rangers when they came through town searching for Bass. This act wasn't an isolated incident. Bass was known for leaving extra money for stagecoach drivers and even telling certain passengers to keep their valuables. While he still committed crimes, these actions helped build his legend, making him a folk hero to some and a dangerous outlaw to others. The betrayal of Sam Bass. How his own man turned on him. In the Wild West, loyalty could mean the difference between life and death. For Sam Bass, trust in the wrong man would be his downfall. After years of outwitting lawmen, robbing trains and living on the run, Bass's luck ran out, not because of a gunfight or a bad heist, but because one of his own men turned against him. As Bass and his gang continued their outlaw life, Texas Rangers were closing in, determined to put an end to his crime spree. One of his gang members, Jim Murphy, found himself in a tight spot, captured by the law, and faced with a difficult choice: rot in prison or betray Sam Bass. Under pressure from the Rangers, Murphy agreed to become an informant. He rejoined Bass's gang, all the while secretly feeding information to the authorities. The betrayal reached its peak in July 1878, when Murphy lured Bass into Round Rock, Texas, under the pretense of scouting the town for a future bank robbery. But as Bass and his men rode in, the Rangers were already waiting. On July 19th, Bass was ambushed outside a general store, and in the ensuing gunfight he was shot multiple times. Mortally wounded, he was captured and left bleeding in custody for 2 days, before finally succumbing to his injuries on his 27th birthday, July 21st, 1878. In the end, Sam Bass wasn't taken down in a legendary duel or a dramatic last stand. He was betrayed by one of his own. Was it fate or just bad luck? Let me know what you think in the comments below. The outlaw who wouldn't die. Even in death, Sam Bass refused to go quietly. After years of robbing trains, evading Texas Rangers, and living life on the run, Bass's story came to a brutal end in Round Rock, Texas, in July 1878. Betrayed by one of his own gang members, he rode into town expecting to plan a robbery, but instead, he walked into an ambush. When the gunfire erupted, Bass was shot multiple times, one bullet shattering his hand while another tore through his spine and stomach. Most men wouldn't have lasted an hour with such wounds, but Sam Bass was no ordinary man. He didn't die immediately. Instead, he was captured and left to linger for 2 agonizing days, his body weak but his spirit still unbroken. As he lay dying under guard, the lawmen tried to get him to talk. hoping he'd reveal the whereabouts of his hidden loot or the names of his remaining allies. But even as death crept closer, Bass refused to give them anything. His final words were as defiant as the life he led. "Let me go. The world is bobbing around," he reportedly muttered. Some accounts claim he also smirked and whispered, "The game is about up." On July 21st, 1878, his 27th birthday, Sam Bass finally took his last breath. Was Bass a reckless outlaw or a legend who lived by his own rules to the very end? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like and subscribe for more Wild West stories.